It started with a phone call that Emma Lawson almost ignored, and later she would think about how close she came to missing the moment that changed everything. It was a quiet Tuesday night in Portland, the kind where rain tapped softly against the windows and the house felt warm and safe. Emma was folding laundry on the couch, thinking about nothing important, when her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She glanced at the screen and froze when she saw her younger sister Lily's name. Lily never called late unless something was wrong. Emma answered quickly, trying to keep her voice light, but she heard it right away. The tremble in Lily's breathing, the pause before she spoke, the quiet effort to stay strong. Lily had always been independent, the brave one who moved to Seattle alone to open her small cafe, the one who posted smiling photos online and told everyone she was doing great. But that night the truth slipped out in pieces. The cafe had closed after months of low sales. Bills were stacking up. Her landlord had given her notice. She had tried to fix everything herself, but she was tired. Tired of pretending, tired of being strong, tired of feeling alone in a city that suddenly felt too big. Emma listened without interrupting, her heart tightening with every word. She could hear the shame in Lily's voice, as if asking for help was worse than losing her business. When Lily finally said, "I didn't know who else to call," Emma felt something shift inside her. It wasn't just worry. It was responsibility mixed with love, and a quiet understanding that family means showing up when pride falls apart. Emma promised her sister they would figure it out. She didn't yet know how, but she said the words anyway because sometimes comfort has to come before solutions. After the call ended, the house felt different, heavier, more serious. Emma stood still for a moment, staring at the dark screen of her phone, replaying Lily's voice in her mind. That was when Daniel walked in from the kitchen with 2 mugs of tea. He noticed her expression instantly. Daniel had always been that way, calm, observant, steady like a lighthouse in fog. "What happened?" he asked gently, setting the mugs down. Emma told him everything in short, careful sentences, trying not to cry, trying not to feel overwhelmed. She explained about the cafe, the bills, the apartment lease ending soon. She explained how Lily had tried to handle it alone. Daniel listened without interrupting, his face serious but kind. When she finished, Emma braced herself for hesitation, for practical concerns about money, space, privacy. Their home was comfortable but not large. Their life was peaceful and predictable. Inviting Lily in would change that. But Daniel surprised her. He didn't sigh or calculate. He simply said, "Then we help her." The certainty in his voice made Emma's chest ache. "She can stay here," he added as if it were obvious, "for as long as she needs." Emma felt relief, but it came mixed with something she didn't expect: fear. She loved her sister deeply, but she also loved her quiet evenings with Daniel, their routines, their private jokes, the small world they had built together. Bringing Lily into that world meant opening the door to uncertainty. What if the stress affected their marriage? What if Lily felt embarrassed living under their roof? What if old sibling tensions returned? And beneath all those questions was another one she didn't want to name. What if this changed the balance between her and Daniel? She hated herself for even thinking that. But change always carries risk, even when it comes from love. Daniel reached for her hand and squeezed it. "We'll figure it out," he said again, softer this time. Emma nodded, but she knew that figuring it out meant more than offering a guest room. It meant patience, money, emotional energy, and time. It meant watching her strong younger sister rebuild from nothing. It meant facing parts of herself she hadn't faced in years. Old comparisons, old protective instincts, old insecurities. Later that night, as they got ready for bed, Emma stared at the ceiling while Daniel slept beside her. She thought about Lily at 22, full of dreams, talking about opening a cafe where people would feel at home. She thought about how proud she had been at the grand opening, standing in the corner watching Lily greet customers with bright confidence. And now that same sister was packing her life into suitcases. The next morning, Emma called Lily back and told her the plan. "Come here," she said firmly. "Stay with us. No arguments." Lily protested at first, saying she didn't want to be a burden, that she would find a short-term rental or stay with a friend. But Emma didn't give her space to refuse. "You're my sister," she said. "This isn't charity, this is family." There was a long silence on the line before Lily whispered, "Okay." After they hung up, Emma stood in the kitchen feeling both strong and shaken. She had made the decision quickly, but the weight of it settled slowly. Daniel came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "You did the right thing," he murmured. Emma leaned back into him, grateful for his steady presence. She knew he meant it. Still, as she pictured Lily's arrival, 2 suitcases, tired eyes, a forced smile, Emma sensed that this chapter would test more than just their spare bedroom. It would test trust, patience, and the quiet promises she and Daniel had made when they married. And though she didn't know it yet, this single phone call would reveal not only who Lily truly was in her weakest moment, but who Daniel would choose to be when Emma needed him most. Lily arrived on a gray Sunday afternoon with 2 large suitcases and a smile that looked practiced in the mirror. And from the moment Emma opened the front door, she could feel how much her sister was trying to stay strong. They hugged tightly, longer than usual, and Emma felt how thin Lily had become, how tired her shoulders seemed under her coat, while Daniel stepped forward warmly, taking the heavier suitcase without hesitation, and welcoming her in with a calm kindness that made the house feel open instead of crowded. The first few days moved quickly as they settled into a new routine. Daniel fixed the guest room lamp that flickered, added clean sheets, and placed fresh towels neatly folded on the bed, small gestures that made Lily blink back grateful tears, while Emma showed her where everything was in the kitchen and cleared space in the closet, telling her again that this was her home too. At dinner, they shared simple meals and lighter conversations, remembering childhood stories and laughing about old school memories. And for a moment, it almost felt like a sleepover from years ago, except now they were adults carrying quiet worries behind their smiles. Lily began searching for jobs immediately, spending hours at the dining table with her laptop, updating her resume, applying to offices, marketing firms, cafes, anything that would help her start again. And Daniel often sat across from her in the evenings, offering practical advice about interviews, suggesting better wording for her cover letters, explaining how to highlight her business experience instead of hiding it as a failure. Emma watched these conversations from the kitchen sometimes, telling herself she was grateful for his support, and she truly was, yet something uncomfortable began to grow in her chest. It wasn't that Daniel was crossing any lines, he wasn't, but he was attentive, patient, encouraging in a way that Lily clearly needed, and Emma noticed how Lily's face softened when Daniel reassured her that closing the cafe did not erase her talent or her effort. One afternoon, Emma came home from work early and saw Daniel and Lily at the table, leaning over the laptop screen together, their heads close but respectful, discussing interview strategies, and Lily was laughing for the first time in days. Emma paused in the hallway longer than she meant to, feeling both relief and an unexpected sting, because she had been the one holding Lily through tears on the phone, yet now Daniel seemed to be the one lifting her spirits. That evening, Emma told herself she was being unfair, that helping Lily was exactly what she had asked for, but emotions do not always follow logic, and as the days passed, she became more aware of small details. The way Daniel asked Lily how her applications were going before asking Emma about her workday. The way Lily thanked him with shining eyes after he drove her to an interview downtown when Emma couldn't leave the office. The way the house felt fuller, louder, less private. Emma missed the quiet rhythm she and Daniel used to share after dinner, when they would sit on the couch and talk about nothing important. Now Lily often joined them, and though she tried not to interrupt, her presence changed the energy and Emma struggled to adjust. At night, lying beside Daniel, she stared at the ceiling again, wondering why her heart felt unsettled when nothing wrong had happened. She trusted her husband deeply, but fear does not always need proof, and sometimes it sneaks in through imagination alone. Meanwhile, Lily was fighting her own battles, waking up early to check emails, trying not to show disappointment when rejection messages arrived, forcing herself to stay hopeful. Daniel continued encouraging her, reminding her that rebuilding takes time, that strength is not loud, that setbacks do not define a person's future. And Lily listened carefully, absorbing his steady confidence like someone who had been drifting and finally found solid ground. Emma saw how much those words meant to her sister, and part of her was proud of Daniel for being such a supportive brother-in-law. Yet another part whispered uneasy questions. Was he investing too much emotion, too much time? Was she overthinking normal kindness? One evening while Emma washed dishes, she heard Lily in the living room telling Daniel about the pressure she had felt running the cafe alone, how she never admitted to anyone that she was scared of failing. And Daniel responded with quiet understanding, saying that independence does not mean isolation, that asking for help is not weakness. Emma's hands slowed in the soapy water as she listened, realizing she had never heard Lily speak so honestly before. Later, when they all sat down for dinner, Lily seemed lighter, more open, and Emma couldn't ignore the fact that Daniel had helped create that change. The house, once predictable, now carried shifting emotions under its calm surface. Gratitude, worry, pride, insecurity, and Emma felt herself standing in the middle of it all, trying to balance love for her sister with love for her husband, without letting fear twist either one. As another week passed, Lily received a call for a second interview at a marketing agency in Seattle, and the hope in her eyes was clear. Daniel congratulated her warmly, offering to help her prepare again, while Emma smiled and hugged her sister, telling her she deserved this chance. Still, when Emma went to bed that night, she felt the distance she couldn't quite name, not physical distance, but emotional tension created by change. She understood that growth often feels uncomfortable, that generosity can test hidden insecurities, and that sharing space means sharing energy. But she hadn't expected how deeply it would challenge her sense of stability. In the quiet darkness, she finally admitted to herself that she was not afraid of Lily stealing Daniel's heart. She was afraid of losing her sense of being the center of his world, even temporarily, and that realization made her feel both small and honest at the same time. Down the hall, Lily stayed up late revising her notes for the interview, determined not to waste this opportunity, while Daniel double-checked directions to the office building to make sure she wouldn't be late. In that house, under one roof, 3 hearts were adjusting to a new rhythm, each carrying private thoughts they had not fully spoken aloud, and though nothing dramatic had happened yet, Emma sensed that the real test was not about loyalty, but about trust. Trust in her marriage, trust in her sister, and trust in herself to handle change without letting fear control her actions. The shift happened on a quiet afternoon when Emma came home earlier than planned, her mind busy with unfinished tasks, but her steps slowed as she heard soft voices coming from the backyard. She set her keys down gently and moved toward the sliding door, stopping when she saw Lily sitting at the patio table with her head lowered, shoulders shaking, while Daniel sat across from her, calm and steady, not too close, not distant either, simply present. And Emma stayed still as Lily spoke in a broken voice about the interview that had seemed promising, but ended with polite rejection, about the email that thanked her for her time, but chose someone with more recent corporate experience, about how each small no felt heavier than the last. And Daniel listened without rushing to fix anything, telling her that disappointment does not mean defeat, that rebuilding takes courage, that her cafe closing was not proof of failure but proof that she had dared to try. Emma expected to feel that old twist of fear again, but instead she noticed something clear in Daniel's posture. There was no hidden softness, no secret spark, just quiet respect and support, the kind one offers family without crossing lines. Lily wiped her tears and admitted she felt embarrassed living in her sister's house at 30, admitted she hated depending on anyone, and Daniel replied that everyone needs help at some point, that pride should never be heavier than healing. And as Emma watched, something inside her finally settled, because she saw the truth without doubt. Daniel was not stepping into her place. He was standing beside her, honoring the role she had asked him to take. Emma stepped outside then, and both of them looked up. Lily quickly brushed her cheeks, trying to smile, but Emma walked over and wrapped her arms around her sister without hesitation, feeling how fragile she still was under that brave surface. And Daniel stood giving them space, not awkward, not defensive, simply understanding. Later that evening, after Lily went upstairs early, tired from the emotional weight of the day, Emma and Daniel sat at the kitchen table in the soft yellow light, and for the first time, Emma spoke honestly without holding back. She admitted she had been scared, not of Lily, but of losing something invisible, of feeling replaced in small ways, of watching her husband share comfort and attention that once felt private, and saying the words made her cheeks burn with shame. Yet Daniel did not react with anger or surprise. He just listened the same way he had listened to Lily. He reached across the table and took Emma's hand, telling her that love does not shrink when shared with family, that helping Lily was never about building a new bond, but about protecting the one he already had with Emma, that he stepped up because she asked him to, because her worries mattered to him, because supporting her sister was another way of supporting her. Emma felt tears gather in her eyes, not from sadness but from relief, and she realized how much of her fear had grown in silence, fed by imagination instead of fact. Daniel explained that he saw Lily as someone who needed encouragement, nothing more, that his loyalty to Emma was not fragile or temporary, that their marriage was built on trust stronger than passing doubts, and hearing him speak so plainly untangled the knot inside her chest. The next morning Emma woke with a lighter heart, and when she joined Lily for coffee in the kitchen, she saw not a rival for attention, but her younger sister fighting quietly to stand again, and she felt protective instead of threatened. Days moved quickly after that conversation. Lily continued applying for jobs, Daniel continued offering advice when asked, and Emma began joining those discussions instead of watching from a distance, adding her own suggestions, laughing when Lily overthought small details, creating a sense of teamwork instead of separation. One evening, Lily received a call for another interview, this time with a growing marketing firm willing to value her cafe experience as leadership, and the hope in her voice filled the house with new energy. Daniel congratulated her with a warm smile, Emma hugged her tightly, and the three of them prepared together, practicing questions around the dining table like a small support team determined to see her win. On the morning of the interview, Daniel offered to drive Lily again, but this time Emma joined them, sitting in the back seat, talking through last-minute nerves, and when they dropped Lily off at the office building, Emma squeezed her hand and whispered that she was already proud. As the car pulled away, Emma looked at Daniel and felt gratitude instead of doubt, because she understood now that his steady presence had not created distance between them. It had revealed the strength of what they already shared. That evening, Lily returned with brighter eyes, saying the interview felt different, more respectful, more open, and though no final answer had come yet, hope felt real again. Later, when Emma and Daniel stood in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner, Emma leaned into him quietly, and he kissed her forehead with the same gentle affection he always had. No hesitation, no shift in emotion, just familiar love. In that simple moment, Emma understood that trust is not about avoiding fear, but about facing it honestly, that asking her husband to help her sister had not risked her marriage, but deepened it, because it forced them to speak openly instead of hiding small insecurities. Upstairs, Lily wrote thank you emails with renewed confidence, unaware of the silent growth that had taken place between the couple downstairs, and Emma realized that this season, though uncomfortable at first, was shaping all three of them into something stronger. The fear that once hovered in quiet corners of her thoughts no longer controlled her, replaced by clarity and calm, and as she turned off the kitchen light and walked upstairs beside Daniel, she felt certain that love built on loyalty does not weaken when tested. It becomes steady, clear, and unshakable. The final change came quietly, without drama, on a bright Thursday morning when Lily's phone rang and she froze in the middle of the living room, staring at the unknown number before answering with a careful hello, and Emma watched from the kitchen while Daniel paused near the hallway, both of them pretending not to listen yet, unable to ignore the tension in the air. Lily's expression shifted within seconds, first serious, then surprised, then glowing with relief. And when she ended the call, her hands covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes and she whispered, "I got it," barely able to stand still as Emma rushed forward and hugged her tightly, laughing and crying at once, while Daniel joined them with a proud smile, telling her he never doubted she would rise again. The marketing firm had offered her a position starting in 2 weeks, steady pay, benefits, room to grow, and though it wasn't the cafe she once dreamed of, It was a new door opening at the right time, and the house that had held so much quiet worry suddenly felt light and alive. The days that followed moved quickly as Lily searched for a small apartment closer to her new office, and Emma helped her compare listings, while Daniel measured furniture and offered to drive her to viewings, the three of them working like a team without tension or doubt. One evening, after Lily signed a lease on a modest but bright apartment with wide windows and a small balcony, she returned home with keys in her hand and gratitude written across her face, and over dinner she grew thoughtful, looking at Emma and Daniel with a seriousness that made them both pause. She thanked Emma first for answering the late-night call without judgment, for opening her home without hesitation, for reminding her that asking for help did not erase her strength, and then she turned to Daniel and thanked him for treating her with respect, for speaking encouragement instead of pity, for helping her believe she could rebuild without ever making her feel small. Emma felt warmth in her chest hearing those words. Not jealousy, not fear, only pride in the man she married and the sister she loved. And later that night, after Lily went upstairs to start packing her suitcases again, this time with hope instead of heartbreak, Emma stood beside Daniel in the quiet kitchen and realized how much had changed inside her. She remembered the uneasy thoughts that once kept her awake, the silent doubts that felt heavy and embarrassing, and she understood now that none of them had been about Lily or Daniel, but about her own fear of losing control when life shifted unexpectedly. Daniel wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin gently on her shoulder, and she leaned into him with complete peace, knowing their bond had not been threatened but strengthened by the season they had walked through together. The night before Lily moved out, they shared one last dinner in the house that had sheltered her during her hardest weeks, choosing takeout from their favorite neighborhood spot and sitting around the table longer than usual, talking about small things, office dress codes, commute times, where to buy affordable curtains. Yet underneath the simple conversation was deep understanding of how far they had all come. After the dishes were cleared, Lily asked Emma if they could talk alone, and they sat on the edge of the bed in the guest room that would soon be empty again, the space that had witnessed quiet tears and late-night prayers, and Lily admitted she had been afraid at first, afraid of being judged, afraid of being a burden, afraid of disrupting her sister's marriage, but she had never once felt unwelcome, never once sensed tension, and that safety gave her the strength to stand back up. Emma held her hands and confessed gently that she too had struggled in silence, not with resentment, but with insecurity, and they both laughed softly at how humans often carry fears that never become reality, promising each other that honesty would always be their bridge moving forward. The next morning, Daniel loaded Lily's suitcases into the car again, but this time there was excitement in the air instead of sadness. And when they reached her new apartment, they helped her carry boxes inside, arranging furniture, hanging a simple mirror near the door, placing a small plant on the balcony as a sign of fresh beginnings. When it was time to leave, Lily hugged Daniel first, thanking him sincerely for stepping in like a brother, and he responded with the same calm smile, wishing her confidence and joy in her new chapter. Then she turned to Emma and held her tightly, whispering that family is not just about shared blood, but shared courage, and Emma felt tears rise again, not from worry, but from gratitude. As Daniel and Emma drove home, the car felt peaceful, the silence comfortable instead of uncertain, and Emma looked at her husband with clear eyes, seeing not just the man who helped her sister, but the partner who chose loyalty in every small action, who honored her trust without being asked twice, who proved that love is steady when rooted in respect. Back at their house, the guest room stood quiet and neat, sunlight falling across the freshly made bed, and instead of feeling emptiness, Emma felt growth, as if the walls themselves carried proof that kindness had expanded their hearts rather than divided them. That evening, as rain began to fall softly outside, just like the night the first phone call came, Emma rested against Daniel on the couch, reflecting on how close she had come to letting fear create distance where none existed, and she understood now that strong love is not possessive or fragile. It is patient, generous, and brave enough to welcome others in without losing itself. Lily texted later with a photo of her new balcony view, smiling widely, and Emma replied with pride, knowing her sister's strength had always been there, simply waiting for support to bring it back to life. As the lights dimmed and the house returned to its quiet rhythm, Emma realized that when her sister needed help and she asked her husband to step forward, he did exactly what she hoped, not more, not less. He stood firm, offered kindness, respected boundaries, and in doing so, reminded her that trust, once honored, becomes the deepest form of love,